For 600 years, the Ottoman Empire spanned 3 continents, holding the keys to the world's most powerful trade routes. But by 1875, it wasn't defeated by a foreign army. It wasn't toppled by a revolution. It simply ran out of money. The most powerful empire in the East went bankrupt. This is not a story about military conquest. It is a story about the hidden debt crisis that history books almost always ignore. And here is the part most people don't realize: the collapse wasn't a sudden event. It was a trap they walked into willingly. To understand how the Ottomans went broke, you need to understand just how powerful they once were. At its peak in the 16th century, the Ottoman Empire was the most formidable power on earth. It stretched from the gates of Vienna in Europe to the deserts of Arabia, from the Nile to the Caucasus Mountains. It controlled the Black Sea, the Mediterranean coast, and the ancient Silk Road. If you wanted to trade between Asia and Europe, you paid the Ottomans. That geographic position made the empire extraordinarily wealthy. Taxes on trade alone funded the most powerful military in the known world, but here is the part that most people miss. Wealth built on geography is not the same as wealth built on production. The Ottomans controlled the routes, but they didn't innovate. And when the European powers discovered new sea routes to Asia, bypassing Ottoman territory entirely, the tax revenue began to dry up. The empire was still spending like it was the 16th century, but it was living in the 19th the mid-19th century. The Ottoman Empire was labeled the sick man of Europe. But why? Because they fell for the ultimate financial illusion: cheap credit. Western European banks, flush with cash from the Industrial Revolution, were desperate for high-interest returns. They flooded Istanbul with loans. At first, it felt like wealth. The sultans built grand palaces and modernized the military. But beneath this grandeur, the interest rates were compounding at a speed the empire couldn't sustain. They were borrowing money just to pay off the interest on previous loans. It was the perfect debt cycle. When the loans stopped coming easily, the empire turned to the oldest, most dangerous trick in the book: currency debasement. They started cutting the gold and silver content in their coins. Think about that. Every time a citizen traded a coin, they were losing value they didn't even know was gone. It sparked hyperinflation that crippled the common people. This is the exact same path that led to the fall of Rome and the chaos of many modern economies today. When you destroy the value of your currency, you don't just break the economy, you break the trust of your people. Then came the breaking point: 1875. The Ottoman Empire officially declared a default on their debts. The news sent a shockwave from London to Paris. But this wasn't just a financial crisis. It was the end of sovereignty. The creditors, the European powers, didn't just accept the loss. They demanded collateral. They wanted total control. This is the part that history books almost always miss. Europe didn't invade with ships and cannons. They invaded with accountants. They established the Public Debt Administration. Suddenly, European bankers had the legal power to seize Ottoman tax revenue directly. They controlled the tobacco industry, the salt trade, the fishing rights, the very lifeblood of the empire. The Sultan was still in his palace, but for all practical purposes, the Ottoman Empire had been bought by foreign banks. For the next 40 years, the empire was a hollow shell. Half of their entire national tax revenue went straight to foreign bankers just to pay interest. Infrastructure crumbled, innovation stagnated, and the people grew resentful. By the time World War I ignited, the Ottoman Empire was already dead. It was just waiting for the final push. The war didn't destroy the empire. It just buried a corpse that had been bankrupt for decades. But why does this matter to you, in the 21st century? Because the mechanisms haven't changed. Look at modern deficit spending. Look at global debt levels. Look at the reliance on international credit. We are seeing the same patterns of debt-driven dependency play out on a global scale. Is it possible that we are building our own sick man of the world scenario? That is the question history is screaming at us. History is never just about battles and kings. It is about the flow of money and the weight of debt. If you want to understand where the world is going, you have to understand the debt that brought the world here. If this breakdown gave you a new perspective on history,